Hi everyone, my name is Julia, and in this video I'm going to be talking to you about confidence. So as I said before, my name is Julia and I live in Toronto, Canada. So I've lived here my whole life and I go to school here now. And one great thing about Canada and Toronto specifically is that it is a very diverse city. So we have a lot of different cultures, a lot of newcomers to Canada come here, a lot of people with different backgrounds who are learning English for the first time live here. So you really get a sense of the diverse amount of people that live in this city. So the reason I'm going to be talking about confidence is because this is a challenging thing for anyone to have, let alone if you're coming from a different country and English is not your first language. It can be extremely intimidating to have to talk to people in a new language that you're not extremely experienced in, and I can only imagine how difficult that must be to be living in a new country and talking to new people and maybe not understanding 100% what certain things mean, and a lot of places have different slang. So having confidence in those situations makes a huge difference. So the first thing I have to say about confidence is understanding that the person you're talking to or the people that you're talking to want to hear what you have to say is a huge deal. The reason I say this is because when there's a language barrier between two people in a conversation, there might be a tendency to become shy or to become nervous, but always remembering that the person you're talking to or the people that you're talking to want to know what you have to say and that they're engaged in the conversation regardless of that will make it easier for you to get through the conversation and to find a way to explain what you're trying to say. I think another important thing is realizing that places like Toronto are very interested in other cultures. So we want to know what you have to say and we want to learn more about your culture wherever you're from. You can see this in the way that we have a variety of different kinds of food here. A lot of people like to engage in different cultures. So another thing I want to talk about when talking about confidence is don't be afraid to ask questions. When you're having a conversation with someone and you're not understanding what they're saying, or the story doesn't make sense, or something about it doesn't make sense to you, it is not a sign of weakness to ask them to explain it further. In fact, in most situations, if you ask someone to explain something further, it shows that you're engaged and it shows that you're interested in what they have to say, which is ultimately going to be a compliment to them. So something that can happen in a conversation that might make you lose confidence is when someone asks what to what you just said. Basically, that means that they're not quite sure what you meant, or they want you to explain it further, or maybe they just didn't even hear you properly. So the best way to deal with that with confidence is to repeat what you said at the same level of voice. You don't need to lower your voice, you don't need to feel ashamed. This happens to everyone in conversation all the time. The best thing to do if you don't know how to further explain yourself is just to explain that, just to say, I'm not really sure how to say that in English. And that gets the point across, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. So, as I said before, having confidence is something that affects us all. Not everyone is perfectly confident in every situation. A lot of people experience a lack of confidence speaking to others and speaking in public situations, as do I. So my one tip for dealing with that is faking 5 seconds of confidence. So you might be wondering what this means. In a situation that you're not confident in, it can be helpful to pretend that you are, just for the first 5 seconds, and then that changes everything. So in a situation where you're talking to someone for the first time and English is your second language, it can be very intimidating to initiate a conversation or to start speaking to someone. So the reason that this works is because you don't know how it's going to go, and sometimes the anticipation and the anxiety about that situation gets in the way of your confidence. So by faking the first 5 seconds of confidence, you are able to start something that you didn't think you could do. And it often is much better than you expected, and it often is much less scary than you anticipate in your head. So a great way to feel like you have more confidence speaking to someone when English is your second language is to ask a lot of questions. So ask follow-up questions that allows the person to continue the conversation and continue talking. So for example, someone might say, "Oh, I'm so tired, I didn't get a lot of sleep last night." And what you can say with as few new words as possible is, "Why didn't you get a lot of sleep last night?" So this way, you're continuing the conversation and you're asking the person about what happened and why they didn't get a lot of sleep. You're also not needing to look for new words to say. This is a great tool for anyone who might be lacking confidence in their conversational skills, regardless of whether your first language is English or not. Is just to continue conversations by reacting or asking questions about the last thing that the person said. This is extremely helpful for anyone. This is a great way to keep the conversation flowing. And it's a great way for you to not have to stress and think so much about the next thing that you're going to say. So while this is helpful to you in continuing the conversation flowing, it is also flattering to the person because it shows you're interested in them. So the last thing, and probably the most important thing in my opinion, is to remember that you're not alone. You are not the only one who is experiencing this, and you're not the only person who might be dealing with moving to a new place and dealing with a new language. That is a very hard thing to do. So remembering these things will help you to be more confident in situations that might make you uncomfortable or that might make you nervous. The best thing to do is to remember that people are here for you and people want to get to know you. So those are my tips on confidence. I hope that some part of this helped you, and I hope that you can maybe use one of these tips in your daily lives to feel more confident in a conversation. Thanks so much for listening. Bye.